Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Heal, Thrive, Dream. Today, our guest is Sheryl Carroll, who's joining us outside of Sydney, Australia. So we're excited to have her here today. I'm going to read a short bio about Sheryl. She is an ex-banking professional turned integrative health practitioner and health coach. Sheryl is passionate about encouraging women to prioritize their health and supporting themselves to step into the very best version of themselves. Sheryl Carroll wants all women to live with radiant energy and feel strong and sexy in both body and mind, regardless of their age. Sheryl runs one-on-one and group coaching programs to help women achieve this goal. Sheryl helps listeners to understand the hormonal shifts in the second half of their life and what changes they need to make to look and feel their best. So thank you, Sheryl. What did I mess up in your bio that you want to share?
No, nothing. You captured it. You captured it beautifully. And yes, I'm absolutely passionate about this topic because what I find is that a lot of women in midlife are focusing all their energy outwards. And that's when we actually start suffering from, either not feeling good in our body or low energy. So, I'm just trying to wake women up to realize that in order for them to be their best selves, they actually need to focus on themselves. And it's not selfish.
Right. So before we started recording, you started to tell me a little bit about your why behind what you do. Do you want to go ahead and share that now?
Yes, I'd love to. So I have always been very passionate about health and well-being, and I shared this passion with a friend of mine who I studied with and pretty much traveled around the world with, and we both ended up in Australia. And, we were always the one who would be exercising together, focusing on nutrition, doing all the things. And when I was pregnant with my daughter, she was diagnosed with bowel cancer. And it was pretty much like a 3-month journey from diagnosis until she passed. And she passed when my daughter was 6 weeks old. And, you can imagine what I was going through with like all these questions in my head, which was, we were so healthy together. Like, how could this sort of thing happen to her? If this can happen to her, then what about like me and my family? Like just all of this fear that came up for me. And so what that did was it sparked a question of, do I actually know what I need to know around being healthy and like healthy, and questioning what I was feeding my family, my lifestyle practices, all of that. So when I was on maternity leave with my son, I decided to do a certification in nutrition. And I landed on the Institute of Integrative Nutrition health coaching certification, which gave me a really broad brush view of holistic health, which was amazing. And then through that, I landed on Stephen Cabral, who is a naturopathic doctor, and he brings together all different types of healing modalities, so functional medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, orthomolecular medicine, and he created a health coaching certification, which I then started to do. And through that, it really gave me this level of assurance that, okay, these things aren't left to chance. And when I thought back to my friend, it's like there were so many alarm bells that we just weren't switched on enough to actually take action. We just thought, she's just tired because she's a new mom, or she's working hard. All of these different things, when actually her body was giving us signals that we needed to listen to. So through that, my coaching certification and marrying my investigative skills from auditing and this root cause analysis approach to health is really where I realized this is my calling, and this is how I'm kind of making meaning from a very tragic event in my life, which really shook me. And, that's why I'm really so passionate about getting women to prioritize their health before it's too late, before it's a crisis. Because when it's a crisis, it's often too late. So,
Right.
but it's hard because, women are, often have had children, are working moms, have parents they're trying to look after as well. So it takes a lot to get them to actually realize they need to focus on themselves if they still want to do all of those things for everybody else.
Right. I'm so sorry to hear about the passing. Good friends are really hard to come by, and to lose one so tragically is really sorry about that. But I'm also, thrilled that you were able to take this crisis, this pain, and change it to a fulfilling career for yourself. So tell us, about your work prior to being a health coach. Were there unhealthy pieces that you found yourself in? Was it a toxic work environment? Was there other reasons for the change?
Absolutely. I think I grew up in South Africa, and the way the schooling system works is you choose a path and then you go down that path and you just keep going. And so I was good. I really loved biology. I did so well at biology, but I was also very good at accountancy. So I just happened to get a scholarship to go and work for Deloitte, and, to do my articles through Deloitte. So I did that, and then I did very well. And so then I went into banking, into internal audit and banking, and I did well, and I just continued. But I knew in my heart of hearts that this wasn't my passion. And I think when I was younger and I lived in London and I did all of the traveling jobs, it ticked enough boxes for me to continue going down the path. And then when I moved to Australia and I had children, that was where there started to become a real values misalignment. The banking environment had become a lot more intense, and I was the only person working in a senior position, managing a team that was working part-time, and management didn't like that because I wasn't around all the time because I was working part-time. And this was really what started to create a lot of friction in my life, because I was not supported and my kids weren't sleeping. So sometimes I'd go into work, into a very toxic work environment where I'd been absent 3 o'clock in the morning. And, it ended in me having a breakdown, really. And, all of this kind of feeling, these feelings of anxiety and everything, which I now attribute to the hormonal shifts in perimenopause as well, because we do become less resilient to stress. Because this happened to me around 41, 42, when I had this complete burnout, I think I would have been able to buffer that, say 5 years prior, but, my body just wasn't resilient enough because my hormones were so depleted. So that was really the catalyst to me realizing that I needed to make a change. And I'd been doing my health coaching certification. I'd done that already, and I was practicing health coaching part-time with the idea that I'd continue in my banking role and then do health coaching part-time, and that would be a lovely balance. But the more I was in the banking environment and the more I was surrounded by people who actually didn't value health and balance, which is a key value of mine, it was just, that feeling, it was just jarring. So I made a plan. I hired a business coach and made my exit strategy and left in December 2020.
Good for you. Good for you. And it sounds like you really worked on getting your ducks in a row to have a successful launch to your second career. I'm really happy that you're sharing about the toxic work environment, because when you don't hear about dads, there's always exception, but you don't hear about dads leaving, and maybe it's not an option but you don't hear them going part-time. And so I think when it's women, it's mothers who do this either to grow another career, but a lot of times it's to be with their children. And so I think there's discrimination around, part-time work. And we both know that just because you're at a job full-time doesn't mean it's quality. I know women that could work part-time and get more done than some of the full-time stuff that goes on, so it's I'm really glad that you made that shift and that you're sharing that it was tough being in the banking world when you have different values. So that's one thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I do want to say another thing, and then I'll give the floor back. But for people that are watching on YouTube will know this, but the listeners on podcasts may not. When I first logged in to see Sheryl for this episode, I thought, oh, I got a woman here in her 20s that I'm going to be interviewing. So when she said perimenopause, I almost fell out of my chair. So there's something to this health coaching thing, because she looks fabulous. What'd you take away on that? I was like, she's 40-something? No way. Anyway, I thought I'd share that.
No, thank you. Thank you. Healthy practices, I tell you.
Yeah, they really help with aging more youthfully. Yeah. So tell us about your coaching programs. What makes you different? What makes you more unique than other coaches?
So what I do is it's holistic, and I love going deep with people. And I think that's what I really resonated with what you do and your calling, because what I find with women in perimenopause, that there is very often a trauma element that is getting in the way of them achieving their health goals. So there's the nutrition, and there's the movement and the stress management and detox. There's all of the lifestyle pillars that I work on with them, but it's the mindset, the emotional balance, the self-regulation, all of that is probably number one in terms of somebody being able to make these lifestyle changes, stick to them. Because if there is, a residue from trauma, there may be a lack of self-love, for example, which will then pop up and sabotage their progress, because, ultimately you get to a self-selected ceiling. Mm-hmm. So it's really, understanding the whole person, their history, and going into all of these particular areas such that they can achieve their goals. My coaching programs are very close and continuous. So I'm really with my clients every day. So we meet weekly, but I'm on WhatsApp with them every day. Like if they are struggling with something, whether it's something to do with mindset, low mood, or what do I choose here? I'm on a detox and these are the only options on the menu. What do I choose? I'm there for them because I want to be their little health angel and willpower until it's no longer a question of willpower. It's just their new way of being. So that's how I think I'm a little bit different to other health coaches, because I want to be in their pocket. So that's very important to me, because their health outcomes are as important to me as they are to them.
Yeah, and it's in those moment-to-moment moments, that decision-making, that is how we build habits and how change really happens. So I'm curious, you use the words, I think I heard you say self-sabotage. Can you share in a time when you were working with a woman and she was self-sabotaging herself, and how did you steer her back on track?
So I think a good example is really the wine o'clock. So there's so one particular client springs to mind where initially she didn't think that wine was an issue, that it wasn't impacting her sleep, that it wasn't impacting her ability to parent, and, all of these different things, more from a mood perspective than, like an alcoholism perspective. So through the coaching program, she then realized that, yes, it wasn't serving her. It was impacting her sleep. It was impacting her energy. But then there was this space. So she'd pick up the kids, and she lived a very stressful life. So she was running a business, 3 kids, no help, living abroad from her family. And so she'd pick up the kids from school, and then she would have this space between like picking up the kids, giving them a snack, and then dinner, where she would just have this need for something to help herself regulate, to then be able to, deal with the kids, do the dinner, the fighting, all of that. So what I encouraged her to do, so she kept on defaulting to that, even though she knew that actually what her body was craving was to calm her nervous system, and that choice of wine was actually no longer serving her. So we worked on different strategies to replace the habit that she wanted to get rid of. So what is something else that she could do that would calm her nervous system and allow her to then show up for her kids, do the dinner, all of that in a self-regulated way that's actually not impacting her health goals. So through that, it's to be honest, it's trial and error with that. So what is going to be the thing that is going to support you? So we started off with, okay, when you have that feeling, go outside, get into nature, walk. She had a big garden, like just walk around and just breathe. And then come back into the kitchen and pour yourself a glass of sparkling water with, maybe a strawberry in it or something. So you still have something that's, still got kind of a habit of sipping something. Mm-hmm. And then let's see how you do with that. And then, we check in. So maybe that wasn't working for her because everybody's different. Perhaps it was more about just giving yourself a load off and going down and playing with your kids for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, going down into their level so that they get your attention. So when they're shouting and stuff, it's just about needing attention. Yeah. So perhaps it's just about getting out of your head, going down to their level, being with them, cuddling them, which gives you an oxytocin release. And then, you can then, they'll leave you alone and you can get on with your task of dinner making. So that's just an example. And it really is just a process of working through the thing, but then me holding her accountable to doing the thing so that she doesn't default back to the wine, which she knows isn't serving her. And then just to close off on that loop, the other part of my coaching is not to make her feel shamed or guilty if she chose the wine. It's more just unpacking that. Okay, so let's see how did it go wrong when you were trying to do something else? What was, the overwhelming feeling? So it's more just kind of learnings, and also just really focusing on the fact that health transformation is a journey, and it's not always going to be a straight line. It's like up, down, and that's okay. So it's just not adding to the stress by feeling guilty around how you're showing up.
Yeah, because that just keeps the whole cycle going, right?
Exactly.
I think that was a beautiful example of how coaching can be effective for someone trying to come up with new habits, but the old habits are just so compelling. They're easy, right? I can't think of anything easier than you're trying to unwind and your kids are loud. Like the wine was just easy. You can cook and you can sip it, and anything else. Like I think, okay, what would be better than wine? Well, maybe meditation. Well, how's she going to do that if her kids are fighting?
Exactly.
So I love your idea of taking a little walk in her garden. That's probably activating all her senses. And then the sparkling water with the fruit. I thought that was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I can see you're effective. You're solution oriented. Yeah.
Definitely. And it has to work. And that's why, yes, I run group coaching programs, and that's a very special space because, generally my group coaching programs are all focused on an element of like changes to body composition. So losing, fat that's accumulated through, the wrong lifestyle practices. So, that's a group of women coming together and, making these changes with that as the outcome. But the beauty of, one-on-one is that we can really go deep, and really understand why people are doing what they do and tailoring things exactly for them, which is, a beautiful space as well.
Right. Yeah. So when you were on your journey of becoming integrative, a health practitioner and health coach, I know there's courses and trainings and such for that, but did you have any kind of favorite books that you turn to or would recommend for people that want to learn more about that?
So the doctor that I studied through has a book, The Rain Barrel Effect. So that is, he talks through, so the foundational principles of health he categorizes as the de-stress protocol. So it's diet, exercise, stress, toxicity, rest, so calming the nervous system, emotional balance, success mindset, and supplementation. So it's quite a short book, and it goes through each of these different areas. So as a starting point to understand the lifestyle pillars that you can start to adjust for yourself, that's a beautiful book. And, his podcast is super informative and it's short. So, he does half an hour podcasts every single day on different topics. And it's, for anything you're struggling with, and he gives very succinct solutions. So that's a really good resource.
That. What's his name?
And Stephen Cabral, Stephen Cabral. Cabral.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
right, I want to put that in the show notes for people that want to listen to that.
Yeah, so that's a very good view of holistic health for everybody. But then there are some beautiful books that have been written recently for women in midlife. So Dr. Marisa Snyder has got a book called sorry, they're all here, so I can just read them to you. The Essential Oils Menopause Solution. So she talks about supporting yourself through essential oils and lifestyle supplements and stuff. And she's a beautiful doctor to follow. There's also, I love Dr. Stacey Sims for exercise advice for women midlife, like how to optimize your exercise routines. And her book covering that is Next Level. That's the name of the book. And they're just some beautiful, Dr. Aviva Ram, hormone intelligence. There are loads. So I think that's the beauty of going through these hormonal shifts, which I think not everybody who is in perimenopause identifies as being in perimenopause. Because I like anybody from the age of 35 to actually classify themselves as being in perimenopause, but not many women do. So now I'm focusing my wording on, women in midlife to make these. It's really important for us to start to make these lifestyle changes to set ourselves up for success as our hormones really start to go on a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, I can tell that you're very good at what you do. Because one of my secret ways of telling is when people have a lot of resources and know how to use the resources. So that's great.
Oh, thank you. I know I'm a serial consumer of particularly where I find of all the things, particularly where I find practitioners who kind of speak the language that I speak. And there's so many out there these days, which is just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For women who are listening, as you know, are women are survivors. And one of the first things they tend to let go of when they're busy and just trying to survive is help. What is something maybe on the inspirational side of the house that would help them rethink that so they can start on their healthier life journey? How could you encourage them?
So I think a beautiful starting point is for them to, maybe sit in meditation or sit in silence if they're able to, and really connect to the vision of their future self. So yes, they are where they are now, but it's really thinking about where do they want to be? Like, who is she? What does she look like? How does she feel in her body? How does she show up? How does she talk? And get very, very clear on the image of their future self, and then almost checking themselves when they make decisions in the present moment of, does that serve her? Maybe they can name her, maybe it could be like warrior woman, or, something else that resonates with them around who this future version of herself is. And then, when you're thinking about like this future version of herself wants energy, wants, to feel good in her clothes, wants her brain to feel switched on. And then when you're thinking about nutritional choices, like, does that packet of cookies serve warrior woman? And really trying to sense check decisions based on where they want to go, because that's a very good starting point for anyone. I think generally most people are educated enough to know that the bowl of broccoli is better than the packet of cookies. So it's really thinking about things in that way, but also not being too hard on themselves around that as well. It's like, let me make the best available choice, knowing where I want to go, where I stand today. So I think that's a piece of advice that I would give. But then another very good exercise is to actually get clear on your current day position. Like, what are you eating every day? Write that down. Do a food. When anybody does an intake with me, it includes all of their lifestyle practices. So what are they eating? How much are they exercising? How much water are they drinking? Like, I think we sometimes need to do a self-audit to see where we are. And once that's on paper, it's like, oh, wow, I don't think that's serving me. As she sips her water.
My self-audit is, oh, you have not drank enough water today, for sure.
Exactly. And it's some of these very simple things that can actually shift how somebody starts to feel. Like the water one, for example. Dehydration is a stress on our body. So if we are dehydrated, our body can't function properly, and it's also causing our cortisol levels to rise. So it's, super simple things like that. And I think where people have, trauma survivors, they likely still have a level of dysregulation from an adrenal function perspective. So we want to do everything we can to support their body to feel safe. And, drinking water, eating whole foods are really important aspects of that.
Well, I felt very inspired by your future vision of ourselves.
Beautiful.
Because we all want to be better. I really believe that, even if we're really mucking up and making a lot of poor decisions, most of us, or all of us, want to be better. So exactly. I think that was a really, really good strategy that you have. Yeah. So beautiful. Well, is there anything else that you feel like you want to say to our audience, and also share a little more too about where people can find you online? If you have any, some people have opt-in. I don't know if you have a website with opt-ins. If you have something that you want to share, you're welcome to do that now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so I think when it comes to wanting to change your habits to step into your future self, what I recommend is don't overcook things. Like, choose one area to focus on. So, if you do your little self-audit and you see on your 3-day eating plan that nutrition should be your starting point, then choose one thing. Choose that you're going to focus on a high protein breakfast and maybe have a whole food breakfast as opposed to cereal. And let that be the one thing that you're going to focus on until it becomes part of your way of being. And then choose another thing. Because I think when we sometimes decide, okay, I'm going to become healthy, I'm going to exercise 5 times a week, I'm going to only do this, I'm going to, sleep 10 hours a night, and then we end up taking on too much. And then it's hard to sustain because it's too much change, and then we fail, and then we feel bad about ourselves. So take things slowly so that you can feel that you are achieving every day just by doing this new habit every day, and celebrate your success. So that is what I would like to leave people with from a habit change perspective. And in terms of following me, yes, so I'm very active on both Instagram and Facebook. So my business name is actually Your Tiny Voice. So that's all around supporting people to tap into their own intuition when it comes to lifestyle choices. And I support them to balance their bodies so that they can hear, and their intuition is actually giving them the right signals. So that's the meaning behind the name. And so Instagram is your_tiny_voice. And my website is ytvhealthcoaching.com. And yes, there is an opt-in for a lose your midlife muffin top. It's just some strategies around losing belly weight that's accumulated in midlife. And another one just around supercharging your daily routines. So those are two things, free resources, and sign up, and I send newsletters every week. I post videos daily with interesting content that are actionable strategies for women to take. And on Facebook, it's YTV Health Coaching.
Oh, you have amazing resources for people. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sheryl, so much for being with us today. I think your show today, or our show today, will be very inspirational for women who are sick and tired of feeling sick and tired.
Exactly.
Maybe ready to
take action. Take action, ladies, please.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.